So, we're here again. So this week was fun. On Monday, I can't really remember what I did on Monday. Probably just wrote and read. Maybe played some video games. The Witcher 3. First time I've been playing that ever. That's a really good game. So, if you've been wondering about that, there you go. That's a game for you. I know, it's like old news. The game came out in like 2015. Just give me a break. Alright. Anyway, so on Tuesday, worked pretty much all day, and then played Magic the Gathering. And then on Wednesday was probably the funnest day, where I went to a place here in Utah called Burston Ponds. It's also known as the Mona Rope Swing, and it's pretty popular. A lot of people know it and have been to it. It's just kind of like one of those things that's really popular going to do in the summer. It's this group of ponds, and one of them is like swimmable. It's like maybe 12 feet deep at its deepest point. You go and jump off these trees and into the water and swing off of them with the rope setter there and all that. So that was a good time. And then, so I went there with my buddy, and then we made some steaks. Rather, I made some steaks, and by made I mean burnt them. So that was an experience. And then we went home and played Magic. So that was fun. Alright, so yeah, let's get into it. So today, what I would like to talk about is just the normalities, just like the writing process that I've been going through for the faith, and how sometimes it can be really daunting, and just like talk about, the old saying that if there's a will, there's a way, and to not be dampened or to be daunted by whatever it is that might impede you from living your dream and publishing your book. So my writing process kind of goes like this. I get an idea, and then I write about it, and if I like the idea, then I continue the story, and I keep going with it. And that's how that happened with The Faith. I wrote it as a short story, wrote the first chapter as a short story, and not a whole lot of information. I got a really good reception from my friends and families and readers from all over the world that had read the book, that had read the short story on my blog, and I really liked the idea, and so I decided to go with it, and I wrote another chapter, and I was kind of doing just like a short story series of all these kind of chapters that weren't really like one right after another as far as like the chronological goes, but the order was there. Like, there was definitely a story there, and so I finally decided, after about the 8th chapter, I decided, this is gonna be a novel, and then I stopped posting it on my blog, and I just started, and instead I started just posting. I started just writing it, and I went through and I started fleshing those first 8 chapters out. I wrote a couple chapters in between some of those chapters to get some more information in there, and then I wrote it all the way through. And I want to say this was back in about January when I decided that I wanted to make it into a novel, and now the first draft is finished, and I'm working on the second draft, or the fleshing out part. So that's how I write. And like when I'm writing my first draft, of anything, I have a hard time seeing that little red squiggly line under misspelled words or any grammatical error, and so it's a little like OCD of me, but I have to not have that even in my first draft, even in a rough draft. I can't have that. It drives me crazy to see that. And I realize that for a lot of people that just hinders them, and or stopping to take care of that right then, it's a hindrance, and they just need to keep going and get it all out right then and there. But for me, like, I can't focus with that red line. It drives me bonkers. So even if that means that I'm making up a new word or a new name for a book or for a story, I have to add it to my dictionary so that little red line isn't there. So, but after I have everything written out, then that's when I go back and I start fleshing things out. I start making sure that everything is in the order that I want it to be. I start making sure that there's no plot holes in the story. I make sure that there's that it flows well, as best as I can. And then once I have that all figured out, once I have all the grammar sorted out, which I'm explaining this in like a really short way, but in reality, this fleshing out and making sure that everything's ironed out as best as I can get it is at least a 2-month, could be even a 3-month process for me. I could do it faster, but with a full-time job and my other hobbies that I want to be able to do, hiking and reading, every so often playing some video games, hanging out with friends, I just don't have time to be able to do that. So, and I realize for others, they make that a more of a priority. And but I'll get to the prioritizing things in a little bit. And the main thing is that you just want to be able to set time apart every single day to work on your book, to work on whatever you're working on. Especially if it's something that you love to do, like whether it's a hobby or whether you think that your hobby could go on to something, which is what I'm hoping for, something greater. If that's what you want to do, you gotta make sure you set time apart for that. So I usually try and set at least an hour a day apart so that I can work on my stuff. Usually it turns into more time, and I'm working on it until I feel satisfied with the work I've done that day. But if I'm on a schedule that day and I have more stuff to do, then I just go for that hour and call it good, and I'm happy with that. Because the reality of it is that no matter how much you write, no matter how much you work on whatever you're working on, if you work on it for 5 minutes, that is 5 minutes of creative juices, of energy that you would have not put into it that day anyway. So being able to work on that for 5 minutes or an hour or 5 hours, all of that time at least was spent doing something beneficial and profitable to that hobby or to that project or whatever. So anyway, so once I have that finished, then I send it out to beta readers. I send it out, and then once my beta readers have given it a look over, which depending on my beta readers can be anywhere between a 2-week process to a month process, maybe even a little longer depending on what I'm working on. And then after I'm finished with that, I'll be sending it to an editor, and I'll also be getting and then I'll start working on everything else, getting the book together. So talking about things that are like daunting to me are definitely the financial aspect of it. Working a full-time job, I don't get the best pay right now. I'm working for another job, but at the same time, just working where I'm working now, I don't get the best pay. So being able to save up for an editor and for a cover artist and all these other things that are needed to publish my book, it can be definitely pretty daunting. It can be something that's very, very disheartening as well if I let it affect me too much. And I really try not to. I mentioned prioritizing just earlier, and I want to kind of cover that. Prioritizing is really important, especially because when you're in that mentality of I have this and this and this and this and this to do, it's really important to prioritize that, to put it into sections, and then just deal with those sections one at a time. So I know that I have a whole bunch of stuff to do until The Faith is published, and my goal is to get it published spring 2019. But at the same time, like, I realize that may not happen. Does that make the goal obsolete? Absolutely not. I think that just means that I will either have to work harder or just work as hard as I can in the time given, and then if I don't make that goal, then I can still come back and finish it later. It just means it won't happen right now. Goals are definitely important, but just because you don't make it in the time given doesn't mean that you're screwed, or that the goal is obsolete, like I said before. And so with prioritizing, I think it's really important to have what you want to be able to do all ready to go, and kind of have it, if not written down, at least mentalized, so that you can just can, have some sort of idea. I keep a lot of ideas up in my mind. I pride in myself for having a very good memory. I know that I have a very good memory, and so when I know that I have to do something or write something down or something like that, like, I don't necessarily worry about actually writing it down and visualizing it. And I realize that some people are different and need to write that kind of stuff down. If you're that kind of person, great, write your stuff down. I'm not that way. I'm pretty disorganized, but I'm very organized in my disorganization, and I feel like a lot of people are that way, and I think that's definitely okay. Just like I said, just make sure you do you. But it's important to have those priorities, and it's important to have them straight. And then once you do, don't think of them all as one thing that you have to do. Just think about them as little separate things, and don't even think about the little separate things as one big separate thing. It's just step by step, day to day, until you're finished. Something that I learned a lot in this last year, and not just with writing, but with just anything, is that nothing is as bad as it seems, and there's always a solution. I mean, I've always known that there's a solution, but previously in my life, I have let the stress and just anxiety of something new and scary just overtake me, and I've let it just make me get angry and frustrated and not want to even try. Obviously, and then after I cool off, I'm fine and figure out the solution. But if you just, instead of doing that, I've been able to take a step back before I take 2 steps forward, and think, okay, this is what I need to do, just one step at a time. Let's just figure this out. Excuse me, apparently my throat's getting dry after talking for so long. So, yeah. The main point of what I want to say today is when you have a lot of stuff to do for your project, for whatever that may be. For me, it's finishing The Faith. Just take it day by day, step by step. Don't stress it. Either way, as long as you're working on it, even a little bit by day, even a little bit every day, it's gonna get done, and you're gonna feel so good when it is. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a good one. talk to you later.